Well, Santa's delivered a lump of coal early this year with the release of Home Sweet Home Alone.
Sounds like garbage.
Yes, nearly 31 years after the absolute classic Home Alone was released, the series has devolved into fart jokes,
I'm sorry.
and whatever the hell this is.
Gavin, what?
So I thought it would be fun to see some of the main difference that made the original so endearing, and this newer version, well...
Ugh, this is garbage.
I don't know why they're always trying to remake the classics.
We'll even go over some of the differences in the traps. So make sure to like and subscribe. Seriously, only 9% of you are subscribed, because here we go. While the original starts with that iconic score and animation, the new version looks like it's been popped into Photoshop by my 8-year-old niece. And right off the bat, we're introduced to Pam and Jeff Mackenzie.
Here they are, Pam and Jeff Mackenzie.
Basically, this version's Harry and Marv. You may be thinking, hey, these guys don't look like hobo criminals. Well, that's one of the big differences. They aren't. Unlike the 1990 version, where Harry and Marv's motivations are simple, break in and get money, much of the plot of Home Sweet Home Alone is spent building this complex and contrived justification for Pam and Jeff's eventual break into Max Mercer's home. By the way, this is Max, our Home Alone kid, and I would even argue he's not even our main character. Way more time is spent on following Pam and Jeff and trying to make us like them than Max, who comes across as a total brat.
Mum, you can't promise a kid McDonald's and not deliver.
Ooh, what a McShane.
Who steals poor children's toys at the toy drive.
I'm definitely a child in need.
This is his house. Now that isn't to say Kevin McAllister isn't a bit of a brat too, he certainly is, but there's one key ingredient, or should I say scene, that Home Sweet Home Alone misses. We have to empathize and care about the main character's journey. In Home Alone, this takes place when Kevin attacks his brother for eating his pizza, totally justified, which causes complete pandemonium and everyone in the house hating him.
Look what you did, you little jerk.
We care about Kevin because which one of us hasn't been in a situation where we feel ignored or unloved by our family? This is what makes the ending so powerful when we see how much Kevin and his family truly love one another. The scene also has the added bonus of setting up why Kevin's dad doesn't have his son's passport or airplane ticket. It got covered in spilt milk and accidentally thrown in the trash. In Home Sweet Home Alone, there is no such scene. You just have a bratty kid who doesn't like his family.
But I just don't see why we have to share our house with every stupid relative we have.
One of the biggest differences between these two movies is the setup, mainly in terms of how these two kids get left home alone and why they don't go for help. And let me tell you, in the age of cell phones and the internet, Home Sweet Home Alone has to perform some Cirque du Soleil level mental gymnastics for us to believe Max could possibly be left home alone. In the original, it's pretty simple. A storm has blown out the power, the family is late for their flight to France, and they forget Kevin. In the new version, we find out that they're traveling to Japan for some reason, and that the day before their flight, the family had to be split up into 2 separate flights. In the pandemonium of them leaving in their Ubers, they forget Max, who fell asleep watching cartoons in the backseat of their car in the garage. And all I'm thinking about is how short this movie would be if he got carbon monoxide poisoning. Max's uncle thinks that Max must have gotten on that earlier flight with his mom, but that's not the case. And when Max finds out he is home alone, he lives it up just like Kevin in the original, even dressing up as a woman. Now, I personally don't have anything against that. Who among us hasn't put on our mom's heels from time to time? But bold move, Disney. I guess the movie can't air in China anymore.
对不起，我很抱歉。
I should also mention that Max doesn't have a cell phone and can't access the internet through the movie's version of an Alexa because it's programmed in German. He also refuses to go get help from his neighbors or the police because he believes that his parents will go to jail if the police find out they left him home alone. But moving on to the main catalyst of the story and why I think Pam and Jeff are the main characters. The whole story centers around them having to move out of their home because they can't pay the bills. But when Jeff finds out a creepy antique doll of his mother's could sell for $200,000, it just might be the financial Christmas miracle they've been looking for. This is where Max comes into play, who winds up at the Mackenzies' open house when he really had to use their washroom. There he finds Jeff's doll collection, and when the doll goes missing, Jeff and Pam assume it was Max who took it, starting the events of Home Sweet Home Home Alone, where they need to break into the house and get their doll back. This is what really separates Jeff and Pam from Harry and Marv. Harry and Marv are just bad people looking to make a quick buck. The film portrays Jeff and Pam as this wholesome family, down on their luck, unable to buy nice Christmas presents for their children. Hell, they even volunteer at singing for seniors. The break-in isn't really like Harry and Marv's, it's more to reclaim what was already theirs. So unlike Home Alone, where you're rooting for Kevin to kick the shit out of the bad guys with his booby traps, it just kind of feels weird that Max is doing the same thing to these really nice people who are trying to save their family. The most blatant crossover between the two films is the introduction of Buzz McAllister, Kevin's brother. He's all grown up now, working for the police force, and Kevin is the owner of McAllister Home Security, which Max's house has. Buzz really hasn't changed much.
No one's been able to tame this wild stallion.
In fact, he's only in 2 or 3 scenes. He's pretty much the worst cop around because when he gets a call that there's a boy home alone, he thinks it's just his brother playing a prank on him and decides not to look into it.
Shame on you.
I also don't know why the mom and Max are British.
Maxwell Johan Mercer.
Maybe it was a casting thing. Now when Max's mom does find out that they left Max home alone, there's only one ticket left to America, and she goes by herself, just like Catherine O'Hara's character in the original. Unfortunately, there's no John Candy in a polka band. There's this guy she meets on the plane, but he's totally annoying. Also, that fake movie Kevin watches, Angels with Filthy Souls, has gone from film noir to whatever the hell this sci-fi monstrosity is. And it wouldn't be Christmas without church, right? In Home Alone, Kevin uses the manger to hide himself from the burglars, and while Max doesn't use the manger like Kevin does, it reminds him of his family. But it's the addition of a toy drive which is new in this version. Now Max, like Kevin, comes from a very wealthy family, yet still ends up taking a toy from the toy drive. And there's no scene in the church where Max learns not to judge a book by its cover with the old man, it just kinda ends there. There is a choir though, so Jeff and Pam see Max at the church and decide now is the opportunity to strike while he's not at home.
It's perfect. We go now while they're not home and get our doll back.
And literally the next scene they get there and decide to wait until dark, defeating their entire purpose for leaving.
We'll wait till it gets dark.
And this film is jam-packed with product placement, especially for Kellogg's products, like Max walks around with a backpack of Fruit Loops for some reason all the time, and there are Pop-Tarts everywhere. I mean, the original did have some with Pepsi and Frito-Lays, but this was pretty distracting. Speaking of foods, there's a cool Easter egg at Pam and Jeff's house with Little Nero's Pizza, the same company Kevin and his family order from. Now we get to what everyone's come here for, the traps. Unlike the original, the first few traps that Jeff and Pam succumb to aren't created by the kid at all. They fall into an icy pool, struggle to get over a stone wall, which Jeff then crashes into a dollhouse thing. All of these are just because they're stupid and not because of Max's ingenuity. But then we get to the booby trap plan. Kevin has his mapped out on a piece of paper while Max has written his in chalk on the wall. This was always one of my favorite parts in the film, the creating traps montage, and Home Sweet Home has this too, but makes the tragic mistake of intercutting the trap making process with these insufferable singing clips.
So full of cheer, but not for the children who live in fear.
It just takes away from the energy going into the film's final act. Now I gotta say that there were some pretty ingenious traps in this new version. Some of my favorites included a race car attached to a firecracker which lights Pam's feet on fire, the thumbtack Nerf gun, or the icicle Indiana Jones run. But for every cool one, there are some definite misfires, like the cookies left out for Santa that Jeff eats which were made of hot sauce, the VR machine which Jeff thinks he's actually on a mountain ledge, or stepping on Legos which just don't have the same impact like when Marv stepped on the Christmas ornaments. There's also a lot of CGI, like this CGI pack of sugar that's flung at them, the cold breath is CGI, and the snow is fake. I'm just a fan of more of the practical effects, like the paint canisters falling off the second floor in the original. Here they've been replaced by flour and milk. And Jeff and Pam really get put through some torture, but the film decides to remind us what they're here for.
Don't you dare judge me. I'm doing this for my family.
Why show us them getting the shit knocked out of them and then remind us that they're doing this just to save their family's home? There are also some memorable lines that are rehashed for fan service, like this line.
You guys give up, or you're thirsty for more?
But in the new version, it feels like it was added in post-production as an afterthought.
Giving up yet, or are you thirsty for more?
As Jeff and Pam finally corner Max in the film's climax, we basically learn the whole thing was just a misunderstanding. Max thought they had come to steal him, when all they wanted was this doll back. So he goes from nearly killing them to staying over at their place until his mom comes home.
If we had known you were staying here by yourself, we would have handled things a lot differently.
Yeah, that's the ending. Well, kinda. It turns out that Jeff's nephew had the doll the whole time, and for some reason he decides to chuck it in the middle of the air, almost destroying it, but Max ends up catching it and saving the day. So no one gets arrested like Harry and Marv do, and Jeff and Pam learn the moral of the story.
Because I guess home is just another word for family, right?
But stop right there. Unlike the original, we fast forward 1 year. The Mackenzies have used the money from the sale of the doll to get their life back on track, and now Max and his family seem to have ditched that whole other family that came to Tokyo with them and are now spending it with the Mercers. Aww. Obviously this video has no bias in it at all, but I want to hear your thoughts on which Home Alone reigns supreme in the comments below. Thank you for watching, be sure to like and subscribe, and for more bad takes you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram @ThinkStoryYT. Until next time, remember, Daddy loves you very much.